back to Good Orderly Direction, Practical Tools of the Bible. In this video, we're going to be discussing Genesis chapter 3, and this is the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve formed our first family, if you will. They were children to God. Like a parent, God put Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden and gave them rules, but also gave them free will. He gave them the ability to choose. Think about how a parent does that with their children, even, toddlers. We give them rules, what they're allowed to touch, what they're not allowed to touch, what they're allowed to do. But they also have free will. They have the ability to make decisions. And if they make the wrong decision, then we correct them. If they make the right decision, then we praise them. The serpent convinced Eve that the rules were foolish and designed to keep them submissive to God. And so again, thinking about parenting, and we see this a lot more when children start to become teenagers and their friends tell them, oh, that rule is stupid. They're not letting you become the person that you could possibly be. They're stifling you. If you want to think of the serpent like bad peer influences, however you want to think about it, God may have been trying to shield Adam and Eve from being overwhelmed by wisdom and emotions before they were ready. When he told them, you cannot eat from the tree of wisdom. There are things that children are not ready to handle, cognitively, emotionally ready to handle. And as parents, we try to shield them from that information, from that knowledge, until they are grown enough to be able to understand, comprehend, cope with that information. So it's possible, we'll never know, that eventually God may have been willing to let Adam and Eve eat from the tree of knowledge, but they beat him to the punch. They did it anyway. And despite his rules that they weren't supposed to eat from that tree of knowledge. Like a parent, maybe he wanted them to just have a period when they enjoyed life before having to grow up. As children are known to do, Eve rebelled against authority and wanted to do the one thing she was told she could not do. And we see this a lot in human children. God suspected or knew that they had broken the rules, and he confronted them and enacted consequences. Just like a parent, when their children make a mistake or break the rules, there are consequences. God said, you know what? You broke the rules, there's consequences. Adam and Eve now thought that they were all grown and knew better than their father. So God basically said, I'm not going to have you living in my space, in my house, and challenging me. If you think you're grown, go be grown. I will still love you, but now that you've gotten the knowledge of an adult, you have to act like one. So he expelled them from the Garden of Eden. Just like parents give their children opportunities to learn and make choices, God allowed Adam and Eve to be subject to temptation, not only to see if they would be obedient, but also to help them learn that there are consequences for their action. So we have the first family, we have some parenting, and then we have the first sin. When children are young, parents try to lay a firm foundation, giving children the information they need and can handle at the time. The serpent, as I mentioned before, is kind of like a peer, or maybe even a social media platform that tries to convince children to go against the wisdom that they've been taught. Unfortunately, when a person is led astray, they also often lead others astray, which is why, remember, the serpent convinced Eve to eat from the tree of wisdom, and then Eve went over to Adam and she said, oh, you got to do this, and she convinced Adam to go astray. Think about the times you rebelled against your parents. How did that end up? Think about it from their perspective. Why did they set those rules? What might they have been trying to protect you from? Once you got older and realized the error of your choices, did you feel shame or guilt? and maybe even relief that something bad didn't happen, and gratitude for them loving you enough to try to keep you safe. I know for me, I can think back over some choices I made and I'm like, wow, I dodged a bullet with that one. So I'm grateful that even though I broke the rules, I emerged without any significant negative consequences. And I am grateful that my parents provided rules that were designed to keep me safe. In the Bible, we learn that God is still trying to teach us and protect us by basically giving us an instruction manual for life. And that's really what we're talking about with good, orderly direction. Throughout Scripture, themes are emphasized and re-emphasized. Just like as a parent, a lot of times the first time we teach a child something, they hear it, but then they kind of forget about it. So it needs to be reinforced periodically. What and or who are the serpents in your life that try to tell you that being loving, patient, respectful, forgiving, compassionate, truthful, selfless, meek, and courageous is hogwash, and life is better if you're powerful, prideful, and self-centered? You know, there's a lot of those messages that come out that, especially in our media, that teach us if you are the most popular influencer, if you are the richest person, if you are the most powerful person, then life is wonderful. And while certain aspects of life may be wonderful, I wonder whether it really is, whether they're feeling happy and fulfilled and abundant. In this one chapter, Genesis 3, we see a bunch of different principles. Prudence, the combination of wisdom and patience, where God was wise. He probably knew what was going to happen, but he gave Adam and Eve the opportunity to choose, and they did not exercise prudence. Respect. We see that when respect is not given, there can be negative consequences. Forgiveness. God forgave Adam and Eve. He punished them. But he also said, I'm expelling you from the Garden of Eden, but I'm also going to look after you. I'm going to make sure that, you're able to survive. It's just not going to be the cushy life that you could have had here. Compassion. God recognizes that they were but humans, and we need to recognize our children may make mistakes. They may make doozies. However, they are lovable as human beings. We may not like their choices. We may not like some of their behaviors, but having compassion for them and trying to recognize why they made the choices they did, see it through their eyes, can help us create a stronger, more supportive relationship. Truthfulness. God confronted Adam and Eve about whether they ate from the tree of knowledge, and it's important to be truthful because ultimately the truth comes out. And again, meekness, recognizing that we don't know everything, and rules are important. Eve was conned by the serpent. She thought that the serpent knew and that she could know everything and be as powerful as God. And that's not, really how it works. There's always going to be somebody that is smarter. And it's important for us to respect authority and make good choices based on good, orderly direction, not based on being self-serving and self-gratifying in the moment.